Welcome. This is the 2.5 hour Power BI Masterclass. We're going to build this end to end, a Magnificent 7 Power BI dashboard that's beautifully designed. It's going to take in all the recent updates that happened the previous year, as well as equip you to build something beautiful from start to finish, enhancing your Power BI skills and overall allowing you to showcase your Power BI portfolio. Let's look at what we're going to get into. Firstly, at the top section, beautiful KPI cards outlining the market cap and also including a filter with the logo. Very intuitive, intricate color formatting to make these look beautiful. On the left-hand side, then we're going to have a matrix. It's going to use a logo URL to pull that company logo in there, including advanced techniques like conditional formatting, bar charts, and icons. Then we're going to get into a 100% bar chart where we're going to see the market cap growth distributed per year for these companies, including detailed series formatting that was recently released. Then finally, this beautiful visual on the right. It's a stacked explosion expansion chart. It is very unique, and what it does is it trends market cap over time from a central axis, expanding to the right as it grows, including labels from when the stocks initiated their IPOs, and then above it, a dot matrix ranking and a beautiful tooltip. This is going to help you so much with your Power BI journey. There's going to be more content as well. To stay in the loop, if you haven't already, hit subscribe now. And as you go through this project, leave any question or any comment. I'm going to give you all the files, all the data, everything you need to be successful. So without waiting, let's get into it now. Let's get into Power BI. All right, so here we are in Power BI Desktop, and let's start with the end in mind. I'm going to walk you through this dashboard. You're going to build this from start to finish, a full end-to-end project. You can use this project to showcase your Power BI skills. It's going to really set you apart from the competition. It's going to advance your Power BI development as well. Let's dive into it here. So what you're going to see is the dashboard design is going to follow some guiding principles of, at the top is the filtering and KPI section. We know we're talking about the Magnificent 7. You're going to have a filter section across the top. Amazon, Apple, Google. You can click these things. All the data below changes. You can see the subtlety of the card, the KPI diminishes, goes away, it comes back. You're going to see the market cap, the previous year market cap, the percentage difference, as well as the subtle difference of showing the variable and then up or down, the percentage changing. We're going to use all the new features that were released in 2024 as well. Going to the left, then you'll be able to select years. So maybe you want to analyze, maybe not some of these beginning years, or maybe even you do want the beginning years and not some of the middle ones. Well, you can check and select these things. It's going to change the previous period as you see fit to calculate this. So we can see the jump of what happened from any given period to any given period. It's very cool that way. So we'll select all these things. On the left-hand side as well, you'll see a very nice matrix, which is going to show the symbol, the market cap, the percentage change of the market cap from the previous period, as well as the percentage variance, which is cool because say we're changing this and maybe we want to compare 2024 to 2023. We can see here this dynamically changed. It's pulling, okay, well, previous year was right here. We've increased 1.13 trillion. It's going. So it's going to be very cool. Now in the middle, it answers the question of what is the percentage of change for each one. So maybe not the monetary market cap, but you want to tell the story of which one changed year over year the most from a percentage wise. So you can see some things that jump out right here. Boom, 83%. That's a huge change. Same with some stuff from Tesla, 67%. Who's leading the changes? This again is new formatting that came where you can really control the directionality of the sorting axes. So we're going to dive into that. The market cap trend and cap expansion. Now this is cool. This is a visual that no one else has. It's all native, but you can see it's actually kind of like an explosion where the x-axis shows and you can see this cool tooltip too. It shows when companies were onboarded, when they came. But then as you grow from left to right, you can see the expansion. It kind of comes outward from both ways versus the standard kind of stacked direction, showing the market cap width over time. We can see it expanded here in this 2021 year, decompression 2022, expanded all the way to 2023. Let's bring back 2023 in here. This is a very cool chart. It shows the color, again, right there. The colors all coordinate. You can see the ranking. So for any given year, if we're looking, say, in this tight section, what we can see at the top, Microsoft's at the top, then Google, then Apple, then Amazon, and so forth. Also, I have the icon for Google. It's technically Alphabet, but that's just what we wanted to do. And this really cool additional deal using error bars where we can show, here's the date every company came into play. So Amazon started in 1997. Here's Google's entrance. Here's Tesla's entrance. Here's Meta's. This dashboard is going to fully equip you. You're going to build this whole thing from start to finish. So we're going to dive in. The first step we're going to do is connect the data. So what you need to do is do that right now. Let's jump into that section. Here we have a blank canvas, a totally empty Power BI file, nothing connected. We're going to take this blank canvas, take it all the way to the finish line. So what you need to do is in the video of this description, or the description of this video, there's a link to a GitHub. Download the file, download the zip file, unzip it. It's going to have data sets, icons, and a master file you can always reference and use as you see fit. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by building the data sets. There's going to be two core ones with the Magnificent Seven data, as well as then company information and a date table. So what we're going to do is go to get data, text CSV, go to your data sets folder, wherever you put it, click the Mag 7 historical market cap, open this puppy up. It's going to open up. We're going to do some transformations once this loads. Connecting to it. Cool. Transform data. You can see here it's going to have a lot of information for us. So we're going to transform this. We're going to pivot it, which is going to be an exciting process. So what we want to do first is, as we're here, we're going to select all the columns on the top. Right click, and we're going to unpivot columns. Look at that. Now it made it where the year is going vertically, the attributes are going vertically, and the values are going vertically. Perfect. So now we're going to add the start and stop date for each year. And so the way that we can do that is like so. We're going to come up to this. We're going to add a column, a custom column. And as we already have the year there, what we're going to do is we're going to get a date. So date dot from text. We're going to do this 111 and then close it. And year, close this. Error. And the reason why there's an error is because this is not text. So let's come back here. Let's change this to text. Insert that step. And let's go ahead and just rename this year. Go ahead. We'll change this to company. Cool. We'll change this to market cap. So renaming the data set, you want to square that up, add a custom column. Again, it's airing out. We're going to try this again. So now we're going to come back to this and we'll pick year, close this. We'll call this year start. And there you go. So now that worked. Let's do the same thing again. We'll copy this formula and we're going to go to add a column, a custom column. Paste this in here. We'll call this year end. The same thing, but every year ends with 12/31. Okay. And let's set this to a date and set this to a date. And now we have that all squared away. So let's change this again to, if we come back to how we rename this, let's call it market cap to be a little bit more accurate. Oops, not market capo. Market cap, insert a step, company, added columns. Now we have it. Change it to date. Good. Year, company, market cap, start date. We'll actually call this the symbol. Year, symbol, market cap, year start, year end. Done. Well, that's squared away. We can now make it the name of it a little bit more fitting. We can call it historical market cap. What this data shows, it shows the stock name, the symbol name, the market cap, and then the date. This is generalized to kind of say what it was throughout that date range, which we'll then use in our analysis. So then secondly, we need to get more information about each company. So we're going to do the same process again. We're going to go to home, new source, text CSV. This is where we're going to get companies. And we're going to hit OK. And now what's in this is we have the symbol color, a second symbol color, the company all in uppercase, the company proper, the company full, if you want to see alphabet, if you choose to use that in your analysis, an IPO date, and then a logo URL to a published icon that we can then use as we see fit. So now that we have that, we look through all of these things. All the settings appear to be pretty darn good. So we're set. So now we're going to hit close and apply. We're applying that data. We're creating the data set. There we go. That's connected. And now we want to do one more thing of creating a date table. And I'm going to get some logic. I'm going to put it in here. I'm going to show you how we write this as well. So when you want to make a date table and set up that date table, we're going to go to modeling, new table. And I like to use this. So I just pasted this in here. You can paste it in as well, or you can type it out. But essentially what you do is it creates a table through the method of add columns. And you can start it with either calendar day auto, which is going to create a list of dates based upon what it reads in Power Query. Or you can set a defined start and end date. For this one, I'm doing defined start and end because I know the range of the market cap. I just want to keep it locked into that. And then the add columns is you can change and update this as you see fit. So for example, the calendar date year, we're going to do the format function, create a year, a full qualified thing, quarter, everything else the same. So when we hit enter for this, now we have a date table. If we expand it, we can see all the columns that are there. And what we want to do first is come here, right click, mark as date table. This is going to be critical for some of the time-based functions we're going to do later on. So mark as date table, choose that to on, save it. Okay, good. We've got the date, the market cap. We have all the data in there. Now let's get on the calculations. Let's go. For the calcs, we're going to create an organized calc section. To do that, click new table. Actually, we'll do this. To do that, click enter data, and we'll call the table calculations. This is a good practice I like to do for everything I create, calculations. Great, we'll call this, we'll just leave column 1, it doesn't matter. So this is going to create initial table, but you'll see we're going to change this when we start to build things. Here's what I mean. So if we look at the data, what we're going to do just to get an idea is we're going to click, we'll come to the historical market cap, and we're going to do the year and the symbol. Okay. And then if we do the market cap value, we'll see the value for that. But let's convert that first to the actual true amount. So to do that, we're going to make a new calculation, new measure. This is going to be called total market cap. This is going to equal the market cap. This is going to equal the sum of the market cap times a billion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now let's add this in here, and let's format it by adding we'll call it currency. And we can see that this is hundreds, thousands, millions, and billions. Perfect. So 231 billion is Microsoft back in the day. That sounds right. And now what we can do is come over here and delete the other column we had, creating calculations table. Now you'll see that change the calculation. All of our measures are going to be stored here. Okay, so let's create a couple of other base kind of calculations. We're going to do some min and max dates. Actually, what we need to do to make these calculations work is actually create the model as well. So let's pivot to that real quick. So what we have here is we have companies, and companies are connected to the historical market cap. If you think about a star schema, it's going to go companies to historical market cap. And then we have date. We'll put this on year end date. Single, that works as well. Cool. We have our calculations table. So now we kind of have a model set up here. That's simple enough. And what we're going to do is get the min and max dates. So we'll make a new measure. We'll call this min date. We're going to use this for other calculations as well. From the date table, we'll get the min date. Put that in here. These are going to be the layer again of what we're going to want. We'll format these here too. And let's go max date. Because when we're doing ranges, right now these will both be the same, the min and the max date. But we'll kind of see how this shakes out here in a second. So what you'll notice is that the values aren't really filtering, and there's an intentionality for that, which we're going to go back and fix. So let's set the formatting of these both to be just a date. And now let's go to the model and change the directionality, because what you can see here, it's not truly filtering it down. It's giving the same value for everything. So we need to make sure that this filtering works. And to do that, we have to have it filtering both directions. So we're going to change that by coming up to this, cross-direction filtering both, apply. Now the date will filter backwards. And there you go. So we have the min and max date. It's the same for the year because we're just basing everything off the end of the year, and that's expected. But now our goal is going to be to build that top section first. And so what we want to have is just the total market cap current for anybody. So if we come to our, our symbols, we have our symbols here. Well, if we say, what's the total market cap? Well, it's not that, because what it's doing for Amazon is it's adding up everything for Amazon. So it's adding up all these values to get to this. We don't want that. We just want to have it pick the most recent value to do that. So we're going to create a calculation called MCAP. And for MCAP, it's going to be first a variable, last date. What we're going to do is get the max date, which we just created. So for every record, it's going to go through and get the maximum date, depending upon how you group things. Doesn't even matter. Then the result is going to be calculate the total market cap, which is the measure we just created, where the date equals the last date. So we're going to get the max date and return that. So if what that looks like now, if we create that, let's filter it or do it as well as in currency to keep everything going. Ideally here, it's going to be the same value because you can see it's pulling that. But here's where it makes a big difference. MCAP, MCAP, perfect. So now when we look at Amazon, we can see the most recent record is 2 trillion. There you go, 2 trillion, not this value. So market cap is always going to return what's most recent. That's going to be the key calculation. So now let's do some basic model cleanup here. This is always a good practice, and we'll evolve it throughout our process on this creation. So if you come to this tab, we're going to pick all these calculations we just did. Let's put them in something called base calcs. Company, let's start to group some things up here. So maybe we'll call this company info. Let's call this symbol, SYMBOL. Let's call this IPO. And let's call this image. Perfect. Keep things organized. When you organize early, it's going to help you with a lot of things. Let's do the same with our dates. And so for that, we're going to group these things up. These are all going to go in a folder called day, month, quarter, and year. Capitalize it, keep things consistent. Close all these. Historical market cap, going to be kind of similar. We'll put these into dates. Put this into symbol. We'll put this into measure. And if you want to put them in different folders, feel free to. These are what kind of work for me and what I like. So now we're going to dive into the filter. We're going to start to do some cool stuff. So let's get into that. Let's get the theme set up. So the theme, if you go into the view table, is going to be under customize current theme. You're going to be able to do things like set the default color scheme for everything, set the default text, the title, the KPI, the visuals, the page, the filter pane, all of these things. And you can go through and set these up. What I've done to help this process, as opposed to using the time to pick all of these, I've created a file we can use. So if you go to browse for themes, in what you download, you'll see something called theme. Open it up. Boom. Theme is applied. So now we have a whole new set of color schemes. If we come back into this, view theme gallery. Oops, we don't need the theme gallery, but we do need view customize current theme. color selection set up. Things will be working well for us. This is good. Let's go. Now let's dive. Oh, let's do one other thing. Canvas settings. You're going to get so much more real estate. We want to set this up now because we're going to be using it in the future for custom height. Think about the TVs, 1080, 1920. Look at that. How much more space we get adjusting this. It's why, it's a standard ratio of height to width. So that canvas is set up. That's important. And we're ready to go. Now let's go to the filters. All right, let's build out that top section. So now that we have the canvas all set up, let's designate the zone. So I always like to go to insert, and we're going to pick a shape. We're going to pick a rectangle, and we're going to put it up here at the top. Move it all the way from left to right. The size, the height, 285. It's going to fit well. And I kind of like to add some dimensionality, some depth. So right here, you can see it's just a hard line. Turn that shadow on. Slightly just makes it pop out a little bit more. That's good. Now let's go into our images and go to the icons. Let's pick that mag 7 that we have there. Bring this, you can reshape it, resize it. This is just going to identify, here's our goal of this whole report. So now we'll format it, we'll have it all fit in nicely, but we'll do that after we create the icons. So now let's build the top section for how do we get that cool filter functionality. Here's what we do. Insert a new tile slicer. It's right here. We're going to filter it based upon the symbol. Let's move this up here. So let's start with some basic formatting. We'll kind of work through all of these, all the different sections here. So for the background, turn that off. We don't want a background. For the title, turn that off. We don't need a title. It's going to be intuitive enough. Now for the slicer settings, we're going to want to have a single select. We don't have to have single select. Maybe people want to pick multiple companies. So you can see it's kind of interacting now with that. If it's just Google, maybe add an Apple. Okay, cool. So that's functionally working out. Now let's add the images. This is going to be the way to start to take your dashboard up. We have the logo URL. This is going to go to that URL and pull it in. Okay, so it's not quite formatting. We'll work on that together. So now let's go to the layout. We want this to be a single row. Max buttons, we'll do 7. And kind of leave it like that. Now let's go back to the images. I don't want it to fill, but I want it to be normal. It keeps the ratio of everything together. Now when we start to expand this, you'll start to see, oh, this is really taking shape. This is cool. All right, so let's go to the callout values. And we don't need these values. It's intuitive. We're good. We just need the shapes. We need those shapes. And so you can choose what's applied for the values. Default, hover, press, selected. As things change, we'll be able to control all of these, what that looks like, how it works. Okay, so that's good. And now let's keep progressing through this here. And for the layout, single row, space between buttons. We can turn this to 8, just give it a little bit more space if we want to. Move this like so. And now let's start to add some of that cool hovering and the color of it all. Because if I select it, I want it to show the color of the company. So let's start to look at how to adjust that. If we come down to the buttons, by default, let's have them be that gray color to kind of say, hey, things aren't selected. So by default, we're going to go to the fill, put this fill to this third gray color. Okay, that's saying, hey, this is how we're set up. Even for the border, just put it on that same fill. We'll have the border be functional as well. And let's make the width of the border 6. So it kind of starts to wrap around and show how that whole thing works out. The padding, we're going to adjust the padding to a custom. We want this to really maximize what we're doing here, 0, 0. And we'll move things around as we add accent bars and things too. But now we're having this all squared up where it's looking kind of, it's looking good. So we're here. And now let's add in the dynamicness of it all. So what I mean by that, for the border, if you select it, well, we'll come to here, default selected. If it's selected, we're going to want you to do the first, we'll actually do field value. The first, now go to companies, go to symbol, symbol color, pick that. Okay, it's starting to kind of take shape. We have that going around the edge, which is good. Okay, let's keep working on this. So now if we pick more, you'll see it's starting to kind of work. So we're going to go to the accent bar and turn this on. But we want to do it again. First, let's go to default. So we'll turn this on. We want to have an accent bar. We want the accent bar to be the width of 24. Kind of give it some of that cool thickness. So if we come back down to here, accent bar left, let's make it this gray color so we can kind of see it. Okay, cool. So, but let's make the color dynamic as well. So default, if it's selected, we want this accent bar on as well. And we're going to want it to be on the left, 24, but we want the color to be that first, the field value, companies, symbol color, like so. Cool. Okay, that's filtering out. Now we have that kind of on the left where it's showing we're clicking it, we're not clicking it. This is good. This is good. Let's keep working to make these fit better. So let's go ahead and drag this up. Let's find a good height. I think let's go for 148 and the width of 1637. We'll go this way a little bit longer. Width 1637. That's just going to work out well from some measuring I've done. Now we have this. Let's work on these images fitting better. So a key way to do that is go back to the images. We want these to be set as background true. It fills them up. It fills up the space way more. That's very good. So now we have that set up, which is perfect. So let's set the background actually of the whole card. We want the card to appear as though it's full. So to do that, we're going to go to the fill, and we actually just want the fill color of the card to always be on. We always want it to be white. So that's now starting to take the way of what that whole card looks like holistically. This is good. If I come back to this, we'll kind of see some things that are happening, what's going on here. So now for the, if we go back to the buttons, when we pick default custom fill, let's make sure that when it's selected, we still want that fill to be white as well. So we're getting something like this now. And let's set up, again, if we click all of these, we can see the accent bar works. And we're starting to look like we got some filters going on here. This is great. Let's make the image a little bit more diminished or transparent if it's not picked. These are the tweaks. And you can tweak this to your desire, customize it, go for what you like. But what we can do is now the image, when it's default, let's put it to like 50%. So now we know and then we'll come back up to here when it's selected, put this to 100. So you kind of get that vibe of like, okay, this is picked, this is not picked, how's it working, what's going on here? What you can also do is over hover, if you can do some small changes. So hover for the button. We'll go hover right here. We want that fill to stay white. So as you hover over, maybe you want the border, and you can kind of play with this as you see fit, to kind of change like a red as you hover around. Same with the accent bar. So it's on the left. Let's make that accent bar red as well. Now we're hovering. Okay, we're going to pick this. Boom, 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 boom. And our filters are set up. You can tweak those, customize them more as you like. Let's go ahead and move this icon now. Just drag it diagonally to kind of fit that space. That's really good. Put it in the middle there. We'll tweak that as we go about it. Great, filters are set. Next step. All right, now we're going to build the KPI section. The KPI is going to be linked to the filters from a design perspective. It's going to sit underneath it. It's going to say, here's the market cap of this item, as well as the previous year market cap delta and the percentage of change, including an up or down arrow. So to create that, there's going to be two parts. There's going to be first the calculations we want, and then secondly, the visual itself. So let's start with the calculations. As we're done with this bottom section, let's clear this out to keep our canvas kind of clear. We can even rename this bottom section main. And let's progress. So on the right-hand side, I'm going to minimize some of these things. Let's just go back to our date. Let's get the year, pull that year in there. So if we have the year, we know the base cap of the market cap. Now let's go through the process of saying, okay, let's get the previous year value for what this is. And again, it's not a range, it's a specific date. So to do some of those things, we're going to have a couple of different calculations. The first one is going to be a previous year calc, and we're going to organize them as well. So we're going to go new measure. I'm going to paste this in here, and then we'll talk through what it does. So previous year date. What this is doing is first is a variable. And again, through this file, take these calculations, use them as you want. We're taking the max date. We're setting a variable for the max date, which is what we did previously by getting the max date. It's just the max function. Then we're going to deconstruct it by taking the previous year. So we're going to say get the max date. If there's no max date, put blank. Otherwise, take the year. So in this case, if it's 2001, then just subtract 1 from it to return a value of 2000. Then get the month and the day from the max date that was provided and construct the date. Hit return. Put this into here, format it like so. And now we can see here is the previous year date for any date given. Now let's get the market cap. And so to do that, we're going to create a new measure. We'll call this the same market cap previous year, MKPY. And this is going to be get that date we just had right here, PY date. And if you wanted to, you can nest all these together. I intentionally kind of created them separately. Now we're going to calculate the market cap value for all of the date table. So it's removing the filter context, but instead applying the filter context of where the date equals the previous year date. Hit enter. So what that does, and let's format it as well. Currency, 0 decimals, is it says, okay, here's the year 2001, 376 market cap. Previous year was 1231, and the previous year market cap was this value right here, and you can see it's working. So now let's get the delta, and I like using the delta symbol for that. But let's organize these too. So as you're building calculations, go to the model view. Let's make a new folder and call these previous year. They're all going to be previous year based calculations. Now in this, let's make a new measure. Then we're going to make delta cap. So it's essentially the delta of the market cap value, which is this value right here, minus the market cap previous Y, which is right here. Hit enter for that. Return it. And let's do the formatting. Currency, 0. Perfect. And now let's get the percentage of change. So we'll do a new measure again. The percentage, delta cap percentage, is simply going to divide the variance by the market cap of the previous year. So if the market cap again for 2003 was 327, previously it was 290, then the variance of that is 37. So what is the change of, what's the percentage of growth from 290 if you take 37 from that? And this will show us that by yielding a number here that we'll convert to a percentage. And just to keep things clean, we'll do 0 percentage. So we can see this decreased, for example, by 52%. As in 2008, the market cap was 372. The previous year was 727, or the previous year was 535. And you can see that it decreased there through that process. Or the previous year was 781 right here. A variance of 409, and that's decreasing by 52% of this value. So it's working. But now here's a really cool additional kind of more complex DAX. Oops. I went to column. Let's delete this. New measure. So I want to get the arrows. So now, and you can look up values you care about too, but I just declared a variable called up arrow, a variable called down arrow. And if you go Google Unichar, you'll be able to see all the different codes for different arrows, but this is essentially an up arrow. This is a down arrow. And I'm getting the value already calculated, which is the percentage as well as the number. And if the number is blank, then return blank. We don't want to artificially create values. If the variance has gone up, then round the percentage, put a percentage there, but then put an up arrow. If it's gone down, put a down arrow. Put this in here. show this. Now we can see, boom. Just like that, we have the core calcs for our KPIs, the market cap for the previous year. And if we add in the company or the symbol, you can see it segments it and does it just as we'd expect. Say I'll bring this up here to the top. And maybe we'll sort by this. So for Amazon, 2001 was 4. It was previously 6. That's decreased 33%. Down arrow. We've got our KPIs. Now let's get into the visuals. All right, what we're going to do is create one card and then copy and paste it 6 times, have all 7. It'll be very simple. There is a card small multiple, but I don't like using it because it goes away or comes back. It expands or contracts based upon the filter selection. We want to have just one card looking sharp under each filter. So let's build that. Let's start. So we're going to go to the card new. We have this. Let's pick our market cap. We want that value. Okay, great. And let's start this one just by building the Amazon one, then we'll kind of go from there. So what I'm going to do is I expanded the filter section. We're going to put the symbol here. We're going to build the Amazon card. Okay, good. So bring this back. Let's just kind of position it under here. We'll tweak it later on for the exact sizing of it. But let's just start with something like this. I can even zoom in. So we'll just look. We're going to be hanging out right here for a little bit. I zoomed in by holding control, move my wheel, and I moved in. It's very helpful when you're building things. So let's start. What we want to do first is size and style, background, turn that background off. We don't want to have any background. We want things to be very clean. Now we're going to have a callout value, which is at the top, and then a reference label below it. So title, we don't want a title. Layout, it's going to be a single row. Doesn't even matter because we're only going to have one card per title, so you can see these won't change anything. That's just fine. Padding's all set to 0. That's perfect. We're all set up. Again, small multiples. I did a video on small multiples recently, but we're not going to use those for this because it's better. It looks more elegant when it's just 1 in this case. So we do care about callout values. So now with the callout values, we need to adjust a couple things. We need to first maximize this size. So we don't need to show the word market cap. We are going to go to the label. This is a trick that it doesn't show you. We have to decrease this to 0 and then remove the label to turn it off. Otherwise your value won't be centered. That's an important part if you want to get the pixel perfect kind of formatting. So that's gone, which is perfect. Now we have the value itself for market cap. I just changed the series to market cap. It's just 1. That's fine. So if we come to the value, we'll keep it like it is, but let's change a couple of things. Display unit, we're going to go to trillions. 2 decimal points, 2.19 trillion. Cool, that's looking good. Let's put it in the center. We want to keep things in the center. I think that looks pretty sharp. And let's keep moving forward. So now we are going to have reference labels and a couple of additional things for the card values. But firstly, for the callout value, we want to change some things with the label. We want it to be the color that is this, to bring that uniformity. So to do that, for the callout value, the color, the value itself, we're going to want this to be based on a field value. Companies, again, this is why it's important to put the color in your data model. Put it on this color, boom, orange. Amazon's orange, and we're set. That looks very good. So we're going to keep moving on from that. The background of the card now, we're going to start looking at some card stuff. So we know the reference labels. Let's add those, and we'll tweak them out in a minute. So for the series of market cap, we're going to add the label of the previous year market cap. Again, we can't quite see that yet. That's okay, because we're going to take this, put it down here, drag it, previous year market cap, and then we want to go the previous year delta. So that's there as well. And if you drag this card down, you'll see them both. We'll make things fit here in a minute. But then if we come and choose the series of select the label, delta cap previous year, I want to add that arrow that we created earlier through the detailed section. So I'm going to turn detail on, come here. I'm going to pick the value that we don't need that other section that has the arrow like so, 39%. So again, market cap here, previous year multi-cap, market cap here. We're going to update the formatting so it gets more specific. We can see the variance. We can see the percentage increase. Now let's start to evolve this, make it even better. So to do that, we're going to come back up to the reference labels, pick all, and let's go to the card actually. So for the card, the padding, we're going to set up to be custom, but we're going to do that based upon the accent bar, and I'll show you why. So if we start with the accent bar, we know this was 24 we did up here. So let's turn this accent bar on. And we went to the left, we want it to be 24 as well. And when we do that, it's going to look nice and sharp on the left, but you see it starts to overwrite things. It starts to cover them up. So we're going to have to fix that. And we're going to fix that for sure. But the accent bar, we want it to match. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to the field value, based it upon the company, the symbol color. Select that, and we're looking good. Now for the cards, we also want to have the background. And the card section is this is the reference label. So for the background, we want it to be the same color, theme 1 right here. So it looks like as though it's transparent. That just looks sharp. It looks cool. We don't need the border. So let's go look at the border of this. If we come back down now to the border, let's just turn that off. See you later. We don't need you at all. But let's look at the padding. So we're going to go to custom because we want the left-hand side. Now we have to bring it over. Since the accent bar is 24, right there, if you add 2, you kind of give a nice centered feeling where things are just off by 2 pixels. That looks great. Very nice. Alignment, keep it in the middle. But if you start to go like this, you'll see we kind of run out of space a little bit. So how do we improve that? Though it's very close, it's pretty darn good. Let's just get better. So we're going to go to the reference label section. Under the reference labels, we want let's look at some of these options we have to set this up. So firstly, let's go to the spacing. Space between labels 2, outer padding. Let's bring this down to 2. So we just moved it up. And now it's all kind of fitting in that spot very nicely, which is exactly what we want. So the spacing's fixed, the spacing's updated. The layout, again, rows, you can put the vertical alignment kind of in the middle like that. That looks really nice. So it's equally in the middle. Set that up. Now the background, let's keep the theme going. So for the background, we'll have it be this inverse, which is essentially the color of the background. The divider, well, let's turn that on too. So the divider, we'll put that to the color of the background, theme 1. So it's just kind of there. It's small, not as big of a deal. But now the reference label value, we want that to be the theme 1 color. Just these blues alternating back and forth make things look really good. Now let's update the title and the values of these things specifically. So to do that, we're going to pick a series. Under market cap, the delta market cap, I'm going to change the title to be custom. I'm going to call this, actually, let's do this. First, this one, custom. We'll call this previous year market cap. Cool. Let's make it bold. Let's put in the semicolon. And that's good. Now let's change the same value for the delta previous year. We don't need to put the word cap. We can just kind of go delete this. Previous year delta. Like so, and that looks good. Let's make that bold as well. All right, cool. Now let's format the values a little bit more. So to do that, we are in the reference labels, but we're going to want to go not to the title, but to the value. So let's start by the market cap of the previous year. We're going to come to this. We're going to do the display units to trillions. Everything is in trillions is what we're doing. Decimal place is 2. Now you can see the previous year market cap was 1.57 trillion. It increased the delta of 616 billion, up 39%. Great, that's working. Okay, so now how do we adjust the formatting of this detailed label to kind of say green's good going up? Well, here's what we do, or red's bad going down. Come back to this, the delta, scroll down to the detail section. And now we want to change the font color dynamically. We're going to make a rule. And the rule is going to say, if this is less than min, the possible value, and less than or equal to 0, then put it red for bad. Otherwise, if it's greater than 0 and less than max, then let's put this green for good. just like so, and bold it so it kind of pops out. Now we can zoom back out. If you want to do it this way, you can go view, page view, fit to page. And look at that. Now we have a card. It looks very good. I'm going to show you now how to span that across everything. And again, as you build this, I encourage you, put your own touch on things, find a way that you think is better, share it with me. But we're going to copy each of these. I'm going to show you some alignment tricks. So what we're going to do is just kind of do our best eyeballing first to copy and paste and move these along the way. Not perfect. Intentionally. Except the last one we're going to want to be perfect. So now let's zoom back into here, come to the right. That looks pretty good to me. That's lined up. That's lined up well. Now what we can do is go back to view, page view, fit to page, pick all of them. We'll start with this one. I'm holding control and just clicking. And you can do some alignment. So as they're evenly spaced, if we distribute horizontally, they're all going to line up perfectly. And now line top, they're all going to line perfectly. So those are all perfectly aligned. And now we can just go to them. Simply in this section, change the symbol to be the right one that we want for each of them. So we have Apple. This one, we have Google. This one, and we see that Apple. I'm going to show you a fix for that. This one, we have Meta. This one, we have Microsoft. This one, Nevada. Set that up. Finally, Tesla. Like so, but this is all black. We don't want to see black. So I intentionally created a different thing we can use, which is a second color. So for this one, the callout value, we want the color to, instead of being the first symbol color, come back to companies, change the color to color 2, which is just going to be white. And we're going to do the same thing for the accent bar. And if you wanted to hard code it white, you could as well. But this is just the idea that you can pick another color and it kind of will work for you too. So cards, accent bar, left, color, symbol color, 2, apply that. Cool. Now it kind of looks like Apple. It's all built up. You are building it. We're going. We're cruising. So now let's keep on progressing through this process, and we're going to go to the matrix on the left-hand side. Let's go. Next step is we're going to work on the left-hand side matrix, which lists every year, the total, and the company breakdown within that, including a year slicer. We're going to make some new calcs for previous period, which is dynamic versus the hard-coded previous year. And again, the goal, I want you to be able to say, I know how to do previous year calcs, I can do previous period calcs, whatever's needed. This is going to equip you with all that. So let's start by making a filter so we can then do the calcs, then we'll do the visual. So for the filter, we're going to come back up into our data model. We'll delete this table because we've got that squared away. Let's add year. And now let's click up here to turn it into a filter. What I want to do, you can choose slicer if you want to have a sliding scale, if you want to have a drop down. I chose a drop down because I want to pick and choose selected years within a range as well. So to do that, I'm going to come into here, turn off the header. I'm going to make this a drop down list. The selection, I want to show you can pick select all. We don't want single select, sorry, I meant select all. So with this, again, we can pick everything we want. Now let's format this a little bit, size and style, the background, turn it off. The background of this, of the actual value section, we're going to adjust. We want the font color to be the blue that we have everywhere else. We start to move this into here, we'll see it. For the background on this, we want the background to be this white. That looks good. Now let's move this to kind of get some space. You can center it up a bit. For this, we'll center it as well. And now, again, tweak this as you see fit. You can use the arrows to get it right in a pixel perfect kind of place that you like. I'm going to leave it here for now, set the left and right to this. And now we've created the year filter. pick all, drop down what we want. So how does the previous period calculations work? Well, let's get into that. So in the bottom, we're going to create another year. We've already done the calculations, the market cap for every year. So as we look at this, maybe we say, okay, 2000, well, I don't care about 2001. Let's jump all the way to 2006. So the previous year calculation won't work for this because we want previous period. It's going to be more dynamic. So to do that, we're going to first start by calculating the date using this calculation here. Previous period date. What this is going to do is it's going to get the last date, which is the max date. Then it's going to calculate the minimum current period date. So in this case, the minimum historical date from the market cap data itself, and this was called year end. Then we're going to calculate the max historical market cap date, which is the year end, and apply filtering to say all selected. So everything that's selected from historical market cap where this year end is less than the minimum current period date. Again, these DAX calculations are always available for you in the actual file. But what this is doing, again, the all selected removes the certain row context filtering. So as we create this, let's add it. It won't do anything by itself. You have to add it into a table like so. And we'll go to modeling. We'll click the field. Let's change this date to be just a date. Now we can see that it's showing correctly that for 2005, the market cap was 482. Well, the previous period date was 12/31, which is this value here. So it dynamically changes. Again, if I bring in more values, maybe like 24, 23, you can see that the period works dynamically, which is exactly what we want to have happen. So now let's calculate the previous period market cap. Let's start by organizing our model, coming into here, put the folder. We'll call this folder previous period. Come back to here. And within previous period, new measure, market cap previous period. So now what this is going to do is it's going to get the previous period date, which we've already done. It's going to calculate the total market cap for all, again, everything except the historical market cap, the symbol, the logo URL, and this year end date. And this is coming up, so I'm just doing from what I did before, companies, symbol. And I'm intentionally doing this company's logo URL so you can see the key things. These are the ways that I'm slicing the data throughout this project, by symbol, by logo URL. If you want to do others, you add them into this, and it's going to allow the holistic filtering context to work as you'd expect. So when you return this, let's format it. Market cap, previous period, currency, 0 for the decimal place. And now you can see it's working dynamically. It's pulling back. It's getting what we want to see. It's working just as we expected. Now we can do the same previous period kind of delta cap calculations, which is we have market cap minus that value right there, which we just calculated. Bring this into here. We'll format it as currency, 0. And we're going to do the same for the percentage. And to do that, we're going to make a new calculation as well. It's going to be delta cap, previous period percentage, divide the delta cap previous period, which is this, by the market cap the exact same way we did it before, calculating the percentage the same way. We return this. We're going to format this as a percentage with 0 decimal places. And we have our base calcs. This is good. Let's move this over here for reference. And this will work as well when broken out by, again, this is important for your functionality. I'll show you this. How if we add symbol into this, so we can see it's working as expected, where it's saying, okay, 2003, the previous period for Amazon was 6 million or 6 billion, getting that, doing the variances. But if you would pick something else that we didn't list in that all except, say we come into company proper, maybe this one, it's not working. Market cap previous period, it's doing it for everything, the holistic deal. So all you need to do to update this with this or any other thing you ever create is in the market cap previous period for the all except, go in and add in additional fields you might want in this section here, and you'll be all set. So now that we have that all geared up, let's go into the process of building the matrix. Let's do it. All right, now we're going to create the matrix. The matrix is going to group all the companies by year. We're going to do it in an elegant way using bars, icons, the whole deal. So let's dive into that now. What we're going to do is start by the image, the logo URL, adding that. You'll notice it doesn't do anything. Well, why is that? Because you have to click logo URL, come up to the data category, set that to image URL, and boom, now we have the images. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to use the images in a matrix. So we're going to have the image, and then we're going to have the year, and we're going to create a matrix. We're going to put the year above the logo, like so, and maybe sort it the opposite way. You can sort this later as you see fit. We'll expand everything, just so you get the idea of what's happening here. Expand all, and we'll return calculations the market cap. Okay, this is going to be a total crash course on how to format matrices the best way to make everything fit and do additional formatting. So let's do it. So we're going to show here what the matrix again does is it's going to aggregate anything that you show in the bottom at the top and then return values. So let's come to the image size. Let's make this fit. Let's set this to 20. That's already looking better. Now we don't need to have all the decimals. So we're going to change up the values of these things, but let's add all the attributes onto this first using our newly created measures. So within this, we have the previous period. Well, we want to get the previous period delta and then the percentage change. So what this is doing, again, let's come up to this, and it's dynamic. So we'll take out 2023. This is saying in 2024, Google had 2 billion, and previously in the period dynamically selected, not the hard-coded year, but the period, it was 1.15. You can see the variance of 942, up 82% from what that value was. So significant gains. All of these things are increasing. That's great. Now let's start to format these things. So we're coming back to this matrix, working through the background. Turn it off. We don't want to have a background. We're going to have all these visuals appear as though there's no background. For the title, we'll turn that on, and let's call this yearly company metrics. And you'll see this kind of thread repeating. We'll have the background color for this be that default blue that we use everywhere, and then the text color white. Let's take this down to like 12 and bold it. We don't really need to have a bold. It's already bold enough. A divider. Let's add in a divider. We'll kind of put this gray line. These are subtle formatting things. You can use your own taste and style for this as well. Change it up as you see fit. But then what we can do is the spacing. So we're going to decrease the spacing to 0. Keep it all pretty tight in there. It's just going to maximize our size, what we're trying to accomplish. And the title, again, maybe you want to put that in the center. So we will move it to the center. Yearly company metrics. Maybe even you do want to have a little bit more padding. Add 2, and you're looking good. So we have this. Now let's continue to format these things. So what you can do in a matrix is come down to the values section. And we're going to want all the rows, the background color to be just the same color as the canvas, like that. And by default, we're going to want the text color to be the same, that blue that we use. Just kind of light, just starting this process to put these things on there. What we're going to do, then we can start to look at this, is let's get into the value formatting. Let's make these strings smaller. So to do that, we can go to the specific column. We're going to go to market cap. We're going to set the display units to trillions. Decimal places 2. Delta cap previous period. Let's come right up to here. Display value trillions. Decimal places 2. Delta cap percentage previous period. That's good. That's good as it is. Okay, that's great. And so now let's continue to format this by working our way through the columns. So if we come back to the column headers, we're gonna want this background to be clear. We're kind of working our way through all these things to have it stand out. 10. Okay, they're starting to kind of take some shape. This is good. Let's rename these columns to be kind of more what we want. So you can always do that just by clicking into this. And for the top of this thing, we're going to call it Mag 7. We have the market cap, but we don't need to have, we already know it's, we'll just say delta previous period because we know that's pretty straightforward. We'll say here, delta previous period percent. You can change that as you see fit, but that's how you do it. So we have those columns now set up. And what we'll do is start to adjust now the next column. So the market cap. So to change values within this, it's called cell elements. So in cell elements for market cap, we're going to want the background color on. But we want to, again, use the functionality we've created by going to the field value, base it on companies, symbol color first, and look at that. But also for this series, we can now go to a specific column, and we're going to pick market cap. We want the values to be this text color of this white color, so it stands out. You can, again, adjust all of these things as we want to. So let's keep on moving. For the previous period delta, we want to have bars that kind of help people's eyes gauge how big is this. So to do that, we're going to go to the cell elements again. For the delta previous period, we're going to turn on data bars for this one. We're going to do a formula that says the positive bars, we want those to be this light green. The negative bars, we want them to be this light red. And the axis, again, keep it this same background color so it's almost kind of invisible. All right, cool, that's starting to work out. Now let's do the same thing for the font color. We'll make a rule where if this is less than the minimum value, the number, less than or equal to 0, then we want that red. Red means bad, and went down. If it's greater than 0, then we'll do the number, less than the max. Put that in there. Cool, that's starting to kind of come through very well. But let's go to the next section too. We want to have the icon to say this is going up or down. So let's set that up. Previous periods percentage, icons on. FX, we're going to come down to this arrow up and down. We're going to set this up where basically if it's less than the minimum value, less than 0, well, that means it's gone down, that's bad. If it equals the number of 0, that's kind of even. And if this is greater than 0, that means it's gone up, less than the max. We want this to be number, okay. We have our arrows. That's looking sharp, looking good. Let's move this over like this. So let's start to do some additional formatting. And this is where it can get kind of tricky in matrix formatting. Some people don't mess with this because it gets a little weird. But we'll work our way through it. So what we want to do is we don't want to have this bottom total. Let's do this. Let's zoom in. We could even do that earlier. It kind of might help. So I'm zoomed in. We're looking at this section. What we're going to do is focus on, let's change how we're handling the grouping of this. So I'm going to go to size and style. We're going to pick the row subtotals on off. You can see that's important. Off. This doesn't matter for columns. So let's get in the row subtotals. Now it's per row level. We're going to turn it on. We're going to go first to this. We're going to turn this off. You're kind of working your way down the rows. So we don't want this total one on. Okay, so that's good. The logo URL, we want that on. It's going to stay like it is. Great. Let's come back up to all. So now for the values, we want the background color of this to be the same bar all the way across, the text color white, and apply it to the labels. And we are rocking. So you see we start to have this here. We can adjust the width of this so it fits. And then go to column headers and let's lock it in. So while we have the options, Auto size, we don't want to auto size. We want to keep that just like it is, locked and loaded. So now finally, let's look at this light blue line and a couple of other small features. So there's a grid. If you look at this blue, we don't want it here. So what you can do is there are a couple of different ways to remove it, but I'll set it just so we can see it to red. So you can see how that changed to red. But then if you click like right and then remove it, it takes it away from everything. So that's removed now. And the next spot is we want to fill in this white section. And now to make this not white, when you can click into it, this setting is going to be controlled within the row header. So this is a row, it's a header. We want the background color of this to be this blue or the teal yellowish background color that we have here. Now we're all set up. So let's go back to view, page view, fit to page. And look at this. This is looking really, really sharp. So we can move this over, start to format it, drag it down, and we have the whole thing now set up. Yearly company metrics, market cap set up, it's highlighted. We're seeing the individual market caps that go up, go down. We can come into this, select everything, and you can see what increases, what decreases every single year for every company. And again, as we maybe remove companies, we'll see the totals and things change with this. So it's working perfectly as we'd expect it to, which is just excellent. And now let's keep on going to the next section. We're going to move into the 100% market cap distribution section now. Let's do it. All right, now for the 100% bar chart, that's going to be able to tell the year over year or previous period variance across any of the Magnificent Seven companies. And the cool thing about this is it's going to show a scale of what stood out just relative to change. So let's take a look at constructing that. What we're going to do first is start with our calculations and just kind of laying out the data. So we're going to put year, and we're going to want to break that down by the symbol. And then also we're going to have the previous year percentage, we'll do previous period actually, of percentage change. So now we have these percentage changes that are happening, and let's start to construct 100% and you'll kind of see how this comes to life. Then we'll format it up. So for this, we're going to select the visual that is the 100% stacked bar chart. And by default, you'll see this is what it looks like. We're going to sort it by year. Greatest year at the top, and I'll explain how to read this as well and how we'll format it. So let's just kind of work our way through. So firstly, with everything, we want to set the background to off, and we can kind of already start actually, since we formatted this one, well, let's just go home, format painter, and apply that here. So some of our same formatting is going to show up here by default, which makes things very easy. So we're going to go to the title, and let's rename this one. Market cap percent change versus previous period. So let's type that in here. Percent market cap change versus previous period. Okay, great. And we'll start to make some sense here as well. The legend, we're not going to need that because the colors are being established throughout the entire dashboard. So we'll be able to continually read that. Now, as we apply the title, you can see the formatting matches, it all kind of lines up. Oh, one last thing. Let's come over here and let's turn on the shadow. It's just going to help provide some depth. I like it. It's real subtle. And we want to make sure that we don't have any horizontal scrolling bars, kind of how that's showing up there. So let's come to the width and just slightly increase it until that bar goes away, like that. Now we have maximized our settings. Let's move this one right over next to it. And that kind of starts the trend of lining these things up. So for this, as we're going to establish a shadow, that will show up now as well. And let's begin formatting the axes. So we have the title done, but now the y-axis, we don't need to put the value, the title of year. We know what that is. Same for the x-axis. We know that it's going to be a percentage, so we don't need to mess with that. But let's make the values kind of stand out. So we'll set the color to be the same color that we've done for other things and make it bold. There you go. That's locked in. And for the x-axis, we'll do the same thing with the values. We're going to put it to that blue color and bold. So we're going to establish what that looks like here. Very well. So one thing we're going to want to do is assign the colors. And then we'll look at what does this mean? What do the values mean so we can understand how it tells the story. But to do that, we'll set the colors first. Previously, we were able to use dynamic formatting. For this chart, it's going to have us set the actual color every single time. So what we need to do is just get our color list. So we can go symbol and symbol color, just return that in a table. I'll delete this for now. So we have our listing here. We know what we want each of these to be. So now let's go to this chart and we're going to do a repetitive process. We're going to go to the bars, apply the setting to Amazon, and we're just going to copy this value. After we copy it once, it's going to kind of save there. So this process will be faster going forward, but we're going to put that in there for Amazon. Come back to this chart, copy value, come back to this. We're already there, which is good. Come back to Apple, more colors, paste that in there. Great. And we'll keep moving forward. I'll move this up to the top a little bit. And now we'll go to Google, aka Alphabet. Come to this, go to Google, go to color. And again, once we do this, they'll be available and kind of locked in, which will make things way easier. Copy value for Meta, come back to this. We're going to go to Meta. We're going to go to the color, change this color, apply it like so. Microsoft, copy value, come back here. Again, knocking this out, then you'll be good for the future charts as well. Change this, more colors, apply it. Enter, good job. Now we'll get this one, copy value, come back over here, select the company and change the color. Put the color in there, perfect. And now we'll copy Tesla finally. Copy value, come back to this chart. Change this to Tesla. Come into the color section, paste it, hit enter. Okay, now we're good. So now the colors are making sense. But again, I'm going to show you some formatting options. It's going to allow you to change it, put your own taste to it, but it's going to use all the new features that were just released here in 2024 for our series formatting. So firstly, if we click on this chart, we're going to turn the data labels on. And what we notice is we don't see that many of them. We want to have kind of as many as possible being shown. So we're going to make this width align with the width we've established with this card. It's just going to kind of keep the organization of everything happening. Now, let's see if we can increase and get some more real estate. So the first way to do that is first, we're going to look at the data labels. So the position automatic, that's good. Some people like to default it to the middle or the inside center, inside base. I'm going to leave it on auto for now. Actually, I'm going to do inside center. I kind of like inside center more. But what we're going to change is you'll notice that the way that this is working is the detail is the percent of total. So we're going to change this to be the see-through color that we have here, but the decimal places, we're going to put it back to 0. So we're going to get more space. But now let's talk about some of the formatting, additional formatting things we can do. This is all new and it's really important to know this. So we're going to have the ability under the bars, if we go to all, we can look at the layout and now we have kind of the series formatting. So we want to sort by order. What that's going to do is I'm going to sort by order, reverse order. This puts the companies with the most change first. 20%, 19%, 15%, huge 83% change here. And it's a very nice feature to do that. Now you can use your own tastes and start to decide, well, do you want to have space between categories? You can start to kind of see the width or, how close these are together. You can play with them, kind of make blocks, whatever you think looks good. It defaults to 20. We'll put it at kind of like this 15 range is kind of where I kind of like it. But again, pick your own. Now, space between series, you can explode it a little bit. So if you want to have some space in there, you lose some of the labeling, but some people enjoy seeing that extra spacing. Again, you can choose your own, pick what you like, but that's important to know, to understand that it's there for your usage. Now, let's keep updating this to a degree because what we want to do is actually establish a strong center line. So to do that, we can create a reference line. And in this reference line, we'll click Add. It's going to be line 1, choose a type. It's just a constant line. So this line, we're going to set it to be the color, that blue that we have. We're not going to have it be transparent at all. We'll have it be solid and kind of scale to maybe, 5, whatever you kind of feel looks good. But that just establishes now, this is the center. This is where things start. Now we've identified companies that have the most percentage change. And the final thing you kind of tweak are the grid lines in the background if you want to see more of those. Maybe bring the width up. You can pick that same gray that we've used earlier. More of a dash, kind of more spacing. Kind of transparent. Set it into where you like it. You can dial that in. But now you have established, a really sharp looking chart for area. And we're going to move on to the very cool growth explosion chart. And we're going to dive into that one now. Let's go. Before we go to the next chart, which is going to be the most complicated chart of all of them, let's do a little cleanup. Let's check out our dashboard. So firstly, what I want to do is start at the top. I'm noticing that this value seems high. And so if I go to the filters, when we did the steps earlier, I can see Amazon and Microsoft are both selected. So for this case, you want to just pick Microsoft. Same with Meta. It looks like it's Amazon. Oops, I'll add this symbol back to the filter. We'll choose Meta. So that clears that up, as well as a bulk update with the reference labels. So if we click all of them holding control, then we can see that sometimes it shows billions, sometimes it shows trillions. And so that's just a default setting, which we can set up if we go to reference labels, MCAP, delta previous year. And now we're going to go to the value and we're going to say display units to billions. Let's just always like that to billions, keep things consistent. That's nice. Now for this chart that we just created, let's bring it up just a smidge. So we still see that shadow, just kind of has things sitting nicely. And we'll bring this one up as well. And then finally, it's really cool for this 100% chart. If you do add the zoom slider, what that's going to do is allow people, if they want to really dive into a certain section of the chart, they can really get into it. So we're going to add that, as well as if you look at some of the labels, they're kind of truncated. So what you can do is if you go to the data labels, and because we defaulted to tell it what kind of position to do, it doesn't maximize it. But if you choose it to auto, you can see we had a few more of them pop up now and they're not cut off. So those are some good cleanup steps to do. Also for the tooltips, I don't like it how it just defaults to not kind of fit in. We will have a custom tooltip later on in this. But what I like to do as well is go into the section of properties, go to tooltips, and just do some basic formatting. For your background, let's put it to that same blue color. And for the label color, let's do these same light colors. And it just has it sit in there a little bit better, 23%, which was a 47% change, making up 23%. So that helps us just see those things, a little bit better. And we can kind of make sure this is squared up, which we're good. Okay, so now we performed that cleanup. Now let's get into the next chart. Let's do it. All right, now we're gonna build this stacked explosion chart from the center axis. It is the coolest chart for sure. So let's recap what it looks like. I'm gonna bring this over from my other monitor. And with this final product, we're going to build this now. This sets the dashboard apart. You can see it has multiple parts. Firstly, the tooltip looks super cool, but that's easy to add. But really this stacked explosion. So what it does, it takes the market cap for every company, adds it together to create an ultimate ending point that spans from top to bottom, while then also trending it over time. And we'll go back in the second parts and add these additional companies. To get this, the key secret sauce is that we have to create a plug record. And to do that, as an example, to see what that plug record's doing, there's actually a value that's down here below this called the plug that's dynamically calculating what the value should be for the first stack. So it's invisible. And maybe I can show it here. If I go to the shade area for this chart right here, turn it on, I'll go to the plug, and then turn this, we'll just say show the color for this series. We'll not match the line color. We'll just have it be like this. Boom, plug. So you can see, look at that. That's what we're going to create. That's part of the magic to shift up the chart, and then we'll go from there. So let's start with that. All right, back into our file. Again, plug record first. So we're going to have in our data model, we're going to have a plug, which is essentially a fake company. We're going to add that record to our companies table. Then we're going to add a record to our historical market cap data as a plug record, which we'll do secondly. And then thirdly, we'll bring it all together in the visual. So for the plug record companies that will connect to this, we can create some DAX to make a new table, and it will essentially summarize our current company table and then add a row to it. To do that, we'll go to modeling. We'll pick new table, paste this in here. This is called stack companies. And again, I'm going to intentionally rename this to companies so you can see, and I'll talk through what the logic is doing for all of this as well. Companies, companies, companies. You can copy this, paste it. You can pause it. You can type this out. Right now, the IPO order is not in there. We're going to do that in another step. So just leave that. Companies. Keep going to here. Companies. Perfect. And we took out the IPO order. So we're going to take it out from this as well. So what this is doing, this function says summarize the historical market cap table for the dimensions of symbol, symbol color, IPO date, company proper, and stacked sort, which is essentially you're going to create a company called stacked sort, which is going to be the way this is going to sort based upon market cap value, and then filter all this to make sure that the companies, the symbols are not blank. Finally, then we're going to have another variable that's a blank row. Using the row function, you can do this. And it's essentially column value, column value, column value, column value. I spelled that wrong. Company proper. And 1 for then the ultimate thing. Then you're going to union those together. So if we hit enter, let's look at what we've just created. So now in our stack companies, you're going to see we'll keep it with a symbol. We have a symbol. We actually have a plug symbol now. That symbol is going to have a color. It's the same color. Right now it's just 000, but we'll change it later. And that's going to be a record that's going to allow us to do additional calculations. Okay, cool. So we know that that data exists now. And let's move forward with creating a plug record in the data set, and then we will join all this stuff together. Let's do that now. All right, now the next step is we're going to add the plug records into the data set itself. So to do that, we're going to go to transform data, and you'll see what I mean by this process. So essentially we have a year, a symbol, a value, a start and end date. We need to create a bulk set of records for every year for a plug company. So to do that, we're just going to duplicate what we have here, and it's literally duplicate all the steps. We're going to go to the last step, hit the next step button, and now we can do something called table.distinct. And what this is going to do is going to take this step right here. I can tell it which column. I'll do year start and close this up, hit enter. Now what that's just done is it's created a distinct data set for this column, which is 1 record per year, which is what I want. So now what I can do is I'm going to click both of these, remove other columns, just keep both of these here. And now we're going to add a new column, a custom column. So we have one company called symbol. We're going to add symbol, and we're going to call this plug. And then we'll add another custom column. And we know we want to have the market cap. And in this case, we don't know what that's going to be yet because we're going to calculate it later. So we'll make it null. So now we have a market cap null. And let's set the data type of this to text and this to a whole number. So we've done that. Now we want to go back to, we can call this plug records. But we want to add these to our data set. So if we come back to our historical market cap, the actual one, you can see year, symbol, market cap, year start, year end. Well, let's go to our plug records and we can append these to it. Like this. So if we come to this table now, we will add a column and, we'll go to home and we'll go to append queries where you can see essentially stack it on top and bottom and append queries this way. So we're going to do 2 tables, tables to append. We're going to do plug records. Great. So now when we filter on the symbol, there's a symbol now for plug. And you can see that this is populated. What I did miss was the year. So let's add that in there real quick. And we can do that by adding another column. We'll go to add column. We'll do a custom column. And we'll call this year. We'll do date, year. Oops. And we'll put the date time for the year start. Close this. And we'll call this year. Cool. So now we have the year as well. We'll go back. We'll look at this real quick. We'll confirm the data type for this is the same. And now we have this year. So let's go back to our steps. And you see it shows up just like as we expected. So now we've added these records. We'll come back to remove this filtered row. So every year, if we sort this, say, sort ascending, every year now is going to have a plug record too. We can take all these and we can move it to a whole number. That would be just fine. And now if we even sort it again, sort ascending, cool. So now you can see a plug record that's blank is created for every year and we are all set. So let's go home, close and apply this. You can see it's not really impacting, or it will actually impact something, which we're going to change up in a minute. So you can see that as we've added that, well, let's go to our data model now. So here are the stacked companies. We're going to want to have these stacked companies relate the same way that these companies are based upon the symbol. So that will be good that way, one to many. Go ahead and save that. But up here, now there's a blank record that's going to try to filter for plug if needed because it doesn't exist. So very simplistically, what we're going to do is on this visual, go to the filters of it and the symbol, select all, remove blank. That will fix that and lock that in. These are the tricks you're going to have to use to get around this kind of stuff. So now that we've created that, let's start to look at how to shape these calculations, the things we're going to need for the stacked calcs and what that's going to look like. So what we're going to do, I'll keep the colors here. We'll need them in a bit. Is we're going to start by going to date again. So I'm going to pick year. And now we're going to focus on our stacked companies. So we're going to have our stacked company symbol list. You can see records that exist, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, etc. in the plug record. We're going to add the market cap calculation and you'll see the plugs drop. Those are gone now because they don't have an actual value. There's nothing in there. We're going to calculate those things later. But we do need to make some calculations to start to set up how do we make this stack chart. So again, if we think about what a normal stack chart looks like, I'll spin one up really quick. We go year, we'll go market cap, and we'll go by company's symbol. And we'll turn this into a stack chart like this. Sort it by axis, sort by ascending. This is a stack chart. But now we need to make this plug record that kind of comes up here and tapers it based upon the spectrum. So there's going to be a series of calculations that we're going to want to reference. We'll put this here just to kind of reference it as we need to. So the first is going to be in the collection of them. We need to get the total max across all dates. What's the max width or the max height, which is going to be in a year, a total aggregation. What's that value? In this case, if we look at this, it's like 16. You can come up to the totals and maybe turn this on if you're curious to see, 17 trillion, but specifically it will be a different number. So to calculate that, we're going to use this formula. We're going to make a new section of calculations. We're going to start to enter into some more advanced calcs for this. It's going to be really beneficial though for what you're creating. So first, we're going to create a max yearly cap calculation. What this is going to do, first when you see max X, you can tell it's going to iterate over time, spanning a whole table, not over time, but a whole table. So we're creating a table within it. We're going to summarize the historical market cap for everything, all selected, specifically for years. So it's going to bring back everything per year. It's not going to filter anything out. We're going to sum up. We're going to create a column MCAP by the market cap value. And then we're going to take the max value for every year for that. So again, here's the DAX calculation for this. Type it out. When you do, you're going to create it. It's going to look like this. And what that's going to show is now the yearly max cap. To confirm what that's doing again, I'll turn on the comma. I'll just make it actually a dollar sign here, put this to 0. And we get the idea of this chart where we're going to use some real estate here. So if we did say, well, let's just go back to year and put the year on here. And what's the market cap per year? Right here, sort it. What this calculation just did is it says the year with the most has this much, 16 trillion. That's the total. That's the goal of this first calculation. So now we'll keep moving on. The second one is we're going to want to get the middle of that, because if we think about that chart that we had, there's going to be a total axis and we want the middle of it to essentially be the flat point where things start diverging from. So that's going to be simply dividing what we just created. But let's start organizing these calculations. So I'm going to go to this calculation folder. We'll call this stacked calcs. Cool. Coming back into this, we're going to go to our stacked calc section. I'm going to make another one, new measure. And we're going to divide it. So this is a very simplistic division calculation. I'll put it there. I'll put it here as well. And it's taking this number and dividing it. So now if we charted this out, it's going to be at the max 16, the middle of that is 8. And that will change. Maybe all this stuff is built to be fully dynamic. So as we select different companies, the charts change, these values change, nothing's hard coded. As your data grows or changes, it does it. So it's applicable to everything. Then we're going to get a fairly more complicated calculation, and we're going to get the max yearly total for every year. So in this case, when I look at that, we're going to start in the middle. So first we're going to create a summarized table, and envision in your head a table that essentially has all of the market cap data. For every symbol, it's going to have the market cap value for that symbol within the year, because then we can sum it up across all the years. Again, what that's doing, it's getting the market cap for every symbol, and then plus we're going to create a sum X, which is going to then take this table and calculate it based upon the values that are selected in the year. This is the DAX calculation to do that. So look at this calculation. It's clutch. When you hit enter, it's going to do this. We'll bring it into this. And now we can see what the point of this calc is doing is that for everything that has a value, I'll come back over to this and filter it or apply some formatting. Is it saying for that year, what was the total value? So in 2020, the total value was 244. Adding all these together as you go through other years, 2008, etc. It keeps adding it up. And again, there's more than one way to write calculations. If you have a better idea, share it. There's lots of options to do this. This is what I chose. But again, let me know what you think. Check out this logic. So now we're going to keep going. We want to get the middle of that. And I'll show you how these values kind of pan out through the final mathematical equation. What we're going to do here is create a new measure. This measure is just going to divide that value to get the middle. And if I remove this, you can see we have the middle there. I'll go to modeling to keep the formatting the same. Currency, there you go. Put this to 0. Very cool. All right, we're going to move forward. So now we're going to create the plug. And actually what I'm going to do, sometimes you run out of real estate, you have to work on this math. I'm just going to go to this tab over here, put this table we've been working on, and we'll keep building through it. Kind of like a lab tab. So we have this. You can do the same if you want to, or keep staying where we were. But now we want to get that plug. So what is that plug record going to do? How is it going to show up? It's going to show up like this. All right, so let's talk through this. If the middle of the max yearly, which is this guy, minus the market cap yearly middle, which is this, is less than 0, then put 0. Otherwise, return what that value is. Because essentially what we're doing now for every year is we're going to create the amount that would need to make up the difference to get from the bottom or the middle to span it both top and bottom of the yearly middle market cap to the max. Again, this is the calculation to do that. We hit enter, check out the file there as well. But now you can see this changes because eventually at the final year, it spans the total amount. So there's no plugging going on. There's slight plugging in other places, but we don't want to plug every record. We just want to plug this specific record. But this is just calculating that plug value so we can use it. So now let's do the chart value. One final calc, new measure. Come to the chart value. Now this is going to be a simple switch. It's going to say selected value. If the symbol is plug, then return this plug value. If not, then return the market cap. And this is the whole secret sauce now. So we've added this calc. I'll bring it into this table as well. Let's do the same formatting just to keep things flowing. Put this back to 0. Now we've created literally the plug record for this. And so we'll get into formatting the chart next. But what you can do at a quick level to do a check on this is if you start to make the stacked chart, which we can do over here now. I'll get rid of this. You can get the foundation going by creating a stacked chart, which is going to be right here. And in this case, we're going to want to use our same year field. But for the value, we want to go to our stat Calcs and the chart value. Then we need to insert the plug record or off the plug records. That's going to allow it to then show what needs to happen like so. And now sort this by year, change it up, ascending. And you'll see that it still looks strange. So the next key step is we have to put that stacked value or the plug record on the bottom and then order these companies by the amount of market cap. So what we've done, if we look at the data back here in the table formatting for our newly created stacked companies record, is we have a stacked sort column. Well, let's sort the field of symbol, sort this by the stacked sort value. And as we do that, we should flip back over. Boom. Look at that. Now the plug record's on the bottom and we're starting to get this chart built out. So let's go through the formatting steps. Let's continue some of this. What we can do is let's assign these colors. Let's just jump into that. Then we'll go to other parts. Well, actually, it's always a good step. Just come up, we've already done format painter, apply it to this. So we have some basis there. It kind of took us farther than we wanted to go. I don't like it. I'm going to take it off, have more control. Let's copy this one. Format painter, put it on this. Okay, a little bit more controlled. We'll work with it. So first thing, again, that's the format painter. Just helps kind of getting everything going for you. So what we know we don't want is we don't need a legend. See you later on that one. Let's start with the x-axis. We'll keep it the same where it's going to be this blue color. We'll make it bold so it matches what we have over here. The title, we do not need a title. And definitely for the y-axis, we're not going to want to have a title or a value. But now let's start to give these things color. It's going to be the same process as before. And we'll do a better tooltip. If you hover over it, it shows what each of these are. But what we're going to want to do is assign the colors to the lines. Again, this you have to do it manually. But thankfully, because we set this process up earlier, hopefully those colors are still there. Or if I come to color now, Tesla is this, or what we'll pick, that looks like it's going to be Amazon. We'll just do this. We'll pick Tesla is this red. It's already set up. Cool. Let's go to Meta. It's right there. Google. Right there. Amazon. I don't think Amazon's there, so I'm going to come back to this. Again, these are the colors that we had earlier. Copy the value. Come back down to our chart, and we're going to go back to Amazon. This line color, more, paste it in there. Amazon set up. Let's keep going. Microsoft is going to be the lighter yellow. I think it's this one. Cool. This guy is going to be the green color. And then finally, Apple. It's going to be black. And there we go. Now we have our colors, but we have to do a couple other things too. We want to create the hidden plug. So we'll go with the plug. We're going to set this color to be the color of the background. So that kind of goes away. And now we can look to format this in different ways. So the cool thing about the recent updates is we have a lot of control over this. Round, I'm going to go to this one because it's just a sharp edge right there. That's what this is essentially doing. It's slightly round. I'm just going to go this to keep it sharper. You can set the line width to what you like. Also, we should set this to all. So I'm going to change this. It can get slightly bigger, slightly smaller. You can choose your preference. I encourage you to pick what you like. But what we're going to do is skip to the shade area. We're going to turn this to match the line color with no transparency. And we have a full chart. That is cool. So what we know we don't want to have as well, because we're going to have more things going on here, is the title. So let's turn that title off. Also then, we want to have the series labels on the right-hand side. So within this, if you scroll down, you can have a series label. And for each label, we're going to go through and set that color as well. These details matter. So we're going to pick. It'd be nice if you had the functionality to do a function here, but you don't. So we're going to pick each of them. We're going to start with actually hiding the one that we don't want. So we're going to go to the plug record. We're going to not show it. See that word that was there for a second, plug? We don't even want to show it. We don't want to see anything that has to do with that. Now we'll go to Tesla, background color on, change it to that Tesla red, and transparency 0. For all of these, we'll go back to all. We'll turn the background on for all of them, put the transparency to 0. Now we'll go through and set them. So we just did Tesla. Let's do Meta. Let's go ahead and do Google. And we'll work our way through to Amazon. That's the benefit, again, of setting this kind of once you do it once, they're there. But if you need them, you got them right here, and it all matches. It just brings it together. It's really, really cool. That, and then we'll finish it off with Apple. And now that we've done that, we want the values for all of them to be white. Or not necessarily white, but that same cream color. Now we've created that axis there, which looks extremely sharp. And we've created an explosion chart that now goes. But let's make the tooltip a little bit better. So let's dive into that now. So for the tooltip, we're going to build that out now. And again, if you look at the current tooltip, you see it shows plug. We don't want to see the word plug. We want that to be hidden, and we can make it kind of more ordered and more applicable, really like this. So the hack is we're going to make a new page. We're going to go to the settings of this, and we're going to set up a few things. So page information, page type. This is going to be a tooltip. We're going to call this page name. We'll call it tooltip stacked. You can name it whatever you choose, however you like to remember things. But now we have a tooltip canvas. So what I like is just, let's try to reuse what we have. So I'm going to take this matrix, put it over here. We're going to do a couple of adjustments. It's going to already be filtering for date and year and stuff. So we're just going to make it be a table. We are not going to have, and again, when you build these things, it shows everything. And that's kind of just on purpose. That's how it works. And we'll go like this. So if we go back to the canvas type, we'll go 16 by 9 so you can see the whole thing. If I bring this down, let's just build it this way and then we can make it smaller. So what do I just care about? I'm just going to want the logo and the market cap sorted very simplistically. So to do that, well, let's save some space. We're going to take off the title. We're going to take off the year. We don't want the year, which is showing I called it that. So we're going to have the logo. We're going to have the market cap, and that's all we care about. And then we can even see the total market cap. For this one, we're not going to need to have these extra things like the shadow. We will change up the canvas of this. So we'll say that the background's nothing. But for this one, we'll set the background actually to be the same color that we've been using of this dark blue. But we want to have that total kind of pop out. So what we can do is come down to this section, the totals, just changes to be this value here. Now we can see the total amount. We got everything we want. We can change the column headers as well. Let's have that kind of work out where we'll do the background color to be the same blue we've been using, but the text, we'll set it up like this. We can make this a little bit smaller. We want to maximize sizing when we build these kind of things. So in this case, I'm going to just call it logo and make this smaller. Right there. That's how we want that. Because filtering will be applied automatically. But now let's go back to change our canvas size. So we know that this shape right here, oh, and let's just go header alignment. Let's put stuff in the center, make it look squared up. We can even do the values. They're already set up like we like them anyway, so that's good. But we know the shape of this is 214 by 115. So let's change this canvas settings to be the same custom. What did I say? 214 by 115. Well, that was weird. Let's take that back. So for this, I'm just going to copy it. We'll make it slightly smaller. We'll go canvas settings, custom, 300 by 300. We have our value here. So we'll go like this to view actual size. So now we're looking at this, the actual size of it. Let's move this. Let's make it all a little bit smaller. So we can say again, this is 116 width. So let's change our canvas to 116. Well, what I did was I just copied and pasted it to move it around. We know the height now is 215. So let's change the height of our page to 215. And now we've got a cool looking tooltip. Finally, let's sort this by market cap descending. Like that. All right, TT stacked. Now we're going to come back to our main page. When we hover over, it still shows that. How do we change that up? We're going to go to this visual. We're going to go to the properties, the tooltips, a report page. We're going to pick it, TT stacked, and we're done. Look at that. Now it's going to show the market cap, who's moving, what direction, what's changing. So that's very cool. The next thing is we want to add the dots. The dots at the top are going to symbolize this stacked order, so we can just see how things are changing over time. It's going to use new functionality as well for formatting. So let's dive into that. Let's start by taking a quick refresh on what we're going to create next. So we've created this base chart, but now we want to create this cool kind of dot matrix. It says, I can quickly see and trace the lineage of, Microsoft was at the top, and then they moved at this year down to, then they moved down to. You can follow them along. I can see when Tesla began. I can see how things transitioned over time in the rankings. You can see the swift upward trend of any certain company. So let's talk about how to build that now. So when we're back into our model here, essentially, let's go to our page that's our kind of our playground page. And I'll just rename this actually lab. Will help us keep it refreshed as needed. I like to use a separate tab to throw stuff on when needed. So the key goal for this is going to be to create a ranking of each company per year. So what that looks like is this. If we have year, and then if we have each company that we've already talked about, we'll go symbol right here. And we know that there's a market cap. So again, here's our companies. Well, this one currently is at the bottom or in the middle. We want it to be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We know how many there are. So we're going to create a ranking calculation like this. New measure. And I'll show you different variations of it, how it's kind of what it does. So we're going to call it mRank. We're going to start by just getting a value, a variable value for market cap. Then we're going to use our tried and true all selected. So we're going to make a source table, which is essentially all the selected symbols. We want to have the amount and the market cap for that. Pretty straightforward. So you can rank it and sort it by this, essentially the function, which is a rank. We want to rank it dense. We want to filter this to ensure that it does not include blank, and then order by the amount we described above in descending order. And this switches it up. So before we look at this 7, how about we just look at the result? I'll hit enter. Again, it's good to create multiple variables, and then you can just return whichever variable you want to see. So I created mRank. Let's go over here and add it. And it works perfectly. So as we scroll up, we can see, okay, Microsoft ranked number 1. And each company kind of every year, per year, what they're ranked, 1, 2, 3, every year. That's exactly what we want. Now let's start to brainstorm with the idea of how this is going to look and work. So we'll make a line chart, and we're going to add the symbol. We're going to add the year. Let me collapse this more to give us some space here. We're going to add the year, and we're going to add our new calculation for rank. And let's put this in a folder, actually. Keep things organized. I'll put it in display folder. We'll call it MCAP rank. M rank. Great. We're going to add this ranking to this title. And what are we looking at here? Bunch of lines. Things look kind of interesting. Not really working yet. So let's see why and what's happening. Well, we're going to put these things on the right axis. So we want the year to be on the x-axis. We want the symbol to be the legend. So we start to see lines now. But we don't want to see lines. We're going to want to see markers. So we can come to the line section, and we're going to turn off all the lines. And then for the markers, we're going to turn them on for everything. All right, now we're starting to see some dots. The point why I wanted to start with this first on this page is because we don't want the dots to be in the bottom. You know, Microsoft is here, and then it comes to this one. We want them to be at the top going across. So in this mRank function, what it does is with 7, it just switches all the values. There might be a more creative way to write this. I knew it would work for what I was trying to achieve. But if you type in 7, now you'll see it just switches it, where if it's 1, return a 7, 2, 6. So it just inverts them. There's always going to be 7 companies. You could do dynamically through ranges and stuff, but I know this would get the results I wanted. Hit enter. And now our values are going to be changed up a bit, where they're at the top, just like I'd like to see. Perfect. So now let's start applying this to our chart in the same kind of formatting. So we can just copy this, come back to our main tab. We're going to clear this other stuff out. We'll put this here if we need to reference it later, potentially. I can always get it later if we need it. I'm going to delete it. So now let's start with our formatting again. Let's keep the formatting kind of basic and similar to this one. So I'm going to copy the format painter, paste it up here. We have some lines. We have some things starting to work out. So let's now look at what we're trying to do here. All right, we're going to go to the left. We're going to go to the right. Get our date spaced out there. Good, that works. And what's neat is because it's all the same, look at that. When you can change, you can see how the x-axis lines up if you want to drag it down. But everything's checked out. It's lining up just where it's supposed to be, which is actually just perfect with what we want to have. In this case, maybe if say you don't want to have the series labels, you can turn them off and then have that be blank. Or, you know, you can scroll down and then slightly adjust this width to kind of dial it in. Something like that. And then bring this back up. And you can have your dots this way too. Maybe you don't want to have the dots. In this case, we won't have them because they're just kind of repetitive. The colors make sense. So let's take this and let's start to format it a bit. So we know that for the lines, we don't want to have any lines. For the markers, we do want to have markers. And now that we have this, let's go through the process for each marker of setting up the color to be what we want. And so we do this by going to the series, Amazon, like we've done so many times. We'll go actually to Tesla. I think that was the red one right there. Tesla, and we'll go to Google. And then we'll go to Amazon. And then Microsoft. Keep on going through the list. Tesla. We already did that one. Apple. And now we have the same dots as they're moving across. And say you wanted to have those series labels on, you can most certainly turn them on. Again, and we can do the same formatting. I just feel like it's a little too clustered. I like the elegance of not having those labels. So as they're gone, let's get this recentered. I'll bring it all the way back down. Slightly drag it till it all lines up. Like so. Come back up here. And now I know they're aligned. So the next step I'm going to do is go to the x-axis and turn off the value now. I don't want to see it. It expands it. It's all lined up though. The dots are lined up. It all kind of checks out, which is what we want. So that we have that now, well, maybe we do want to have some kind of line, some kind of change, and we could maybe potentially see how that looks. But let's go back to the markers. Go back to all. Let's have these things be squares. A little bit more, size to them. You can set this up for what you think you enjoy, what you like. In this case, let's see what I preferred earlier, and we will pick the size to be 6 points. So we're going to come back to this, and it's already in 6. There you go. I liked it twice. That means it's exactly what we want. But when I look at this, I feel like I'm not seeing maybe Tesla. So I think I might have set the color up wrong. So let's go back to the series, go to the markers, Tesla, just as I thought. I'm going to get that same Tesla red. So let's go back to this lab. We'll go to our symbol and symbol color. Copy this. It's just the red. Come back to, there's other ways you could get it as well. But we'll go back to this, go to the marker, change the color of this one to be that Tesla red. Cool. And I guess something else switched. We'll go back to meta. We want meta to be the blue. And now everything's looking really good. So now that we have that set up, let's take off the shadow for now, because we're going to have to do something different for that to make it all kind of seem like it's one visual. So we're going to remove the shadow from this and remove the shadow from this. But what you can check again is if you drag this through, all the dots go and line up very nicely. But let's turn that line on. Let's just make it a nice, kind of like a skinny line. So if we go to the lines, we'll turn them on, but we're going to change this now. We're going to do the color. Let's actually start by making it really small, like a small line, maybe 2 points slightly there, but it's too hard to read. So you have to, and I like the straight line, you have to set the color for each series. So we're going to do the same process again. Amazon, I want that to be this, Apple, black, Google, like so. Meta, and you can see the lines now start to change and everything takes shape and it looks like it's all one. Set this up. Finally, Tesla. Put that to red. And now look at that. That is cool. And the tooltip, it's even the same tooltip. If you wanted to change it, it's because I copied the formatting from before. But if you just go to properties, again, tooltips, you can go to the report page, and I have TT stacked. It's reusable. So now I like that because I can just look here. I can see Tesla's on board at this point, where it starts, where it goes. Highly interactive. You can start to fit these things together as you kind of like, bring this up closer to the top. It's looking very good. That's looking great. So now the next spot, which is let's use, anytime there's area on a page, we want to use it. We can say and identify, well, what date did this start? And to do that, we're going to jump into some error bars. Let's go. All right, what we're going to do now is create the labels for when an IPO was released for all of these companies. So right here, you'll see that it's dynamic. It's showing a label. I can turn them on or off. Down here, it's showing when a company began, the date, and it's doing it by a combination of an x-axis that has that same value we discussed when making this, with an error bar then extending up, connecting to a data label detail that shows an IPO name. So we're going to need to do a couple of different things to get this going. Firstly, we're going to want to add some columns. So let's go back to our data tables now. We're in stack companies, and what we're going to want to add is essentially a concatenated like that label to show what it looks like. And that's going to be, we'll call it the IPO label. And what that is we'll go to new column, IPO label. It's basically taking the stack companies, the company proper, as well as then the IPO date, and creating a nice looking label like this, the IPO label. Amazon, here's the date, and we're good. And then finally, we'll want to also have the order And we can add the order into this by doing another new column. And we'll do IPO order. We'll dense rank this by stack companies, the IPO date. We'll hit enter. Oops, stack companies, IPO date. Close this up. Enter, and there we go. So we have the rankings of the date. This plug is kind of there for now, but then it goes quickly to Apple and everything else through the process based upon the date when it was originated. Cool, so we have that. But let's go to back to this lab tab. It kind of helps us work through some concepts and ideas. And what we're going to do is we're going to work to build these things out with these new calculations. So we're going to go to the year. We're going to add that. Then we'll go down to our calculation section and we'll choose symbol. And you can see we have the same plugs, the symbols, everything we've already dealt with. But now let's go ahead and start adding in some new calculations to calculate what we need to have happen for this. So what I mean by that is we'll go to the calculation section and maybe we'll nest it under the stacked calcs in like a label folder. And what that's going to look like is we are going to take first we'll get the year in the label order. So what we can use is this formula right here. New measure. It looks like a lot at first, but it's kind of simple. I'll break it down for you. So the IPO year is going to be the max year of the IPO date. So we just saw those dates. Every single company has a single date. Well, let's just get the year of that. Then let's get the year of the actual record that it's applicable to. If the year is less than 2000 and if the IPO year is less than 2000 and the actual year is 2000, then return it. Otherwise, return the IPO year when it equals the year. And what that's going to look like, what that's going to do is this. But now what we have to do is think about points and think about the axis and building a chart. So we know we have that middle axis already defined by what we did previously with stacked calcs by middle of max total right here. So we're going to add that in back into this table to look at it. So you can see we have the plug and other records as well to have this value, which is what we're wanting to see, which is good. But we want to keep building some additional calcs. So let's go and we can take this label year, move it into stack calcs. We'll come back into our model, move this into stat calcs, and then you can actually do / we'll do labels. And we just put that, actually maybe go \. There you go. We just created a nested folder, stat calcs, labels, label year under it. We're going to add a few more calculations because we're going to have to do some math to kind of create the points. If you think about an x-axis and then the points and the dots. So what that's going to look like is we're going to create this unique column or unique calculation under labels, and it's going to be called the label order. It's going to be the order in which you label these things. What I'm going to do is start by just doing the order section in the bottom of it. It has a variable _order, and it's basically saying if the label year is blank, then return the max, then return blank. If not, return the stacked company's IPO order -1. So let's hit return and see what this is going to yield us. You'll start to see how this shakes out. And so we can see from the dots, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. We scroll through. 5 is when Google comes into play. 6, Tesla. 7, Meta 2012. Okay, great. So now we're going to do some math to create some data points, which we're going to spread out across these labels. So I'm going to go back to the label section, new measure. Oops, I hit column by mistake. Let's delete that. We're going to go new measure. And what this is doing is I'll call it label. And it's going to be an increment. So this is like if you think about how we can multiply things out to spread them across an axis. So if we want to have like 7 sections, well, we know that the max yearly cap, that value, which was like 16, the total height, this number times 2. If we want to break that into 7 sections, we'll divide it by 7, and that will give us 7 increments. Then down here, we can multiply the label order by the increment. And essentially what this is saying is if the value is a plug, then return the plug value, which is this horizontal middle axis. Otherwise, return the label year if it's not blank, or check the label year with the logic we implemented earlier to make sure it's not blank. If it is blank, then return blank. Otherwise, take the order times the increment. A lot of words, but when you see it, it might make more sense. So we have our label here. So what this just did is something pretty cool. It's taken all of these and now spaced them out where every year there will be a plug record, but now there's just going to be one record for every company in a specific year in the data, and it's going to be spread across the maximum amount. Let's kind of see what this looks like, and we'll start to build out an example chart. So I'm going to go to the line chart again. We'll put year on there. And then we have our, everything that we just created was based on stat company. So we're going to do the stat company. We'll just do symbol for now. And then if we go into the calculations, we're going to do the label. Okay. So you can start to see how this is taking shape. Let's go back to the other page. Well, we'll keep working on it here and we'll dial it in. What I'll do to get some basic formatting is I'll come over here, I'll copy this, come back to our lab, I'll paste it here. I'll just format the painter and apply it to this. So we get kind of the similar thing. Again, it's really helpful for formatting the painting or formatting the painter. But what I just did was a couple of different things. So let's go to the tooltips and change this back to auto. And what we can see is that a lot of things have happened in this process. And actually, I'm gonna back it up because I want you to see how to do this. I'm gonna undo this apply formatting because it's just a lot of formatting. So here's the guts. The plug record makes a value for every year. So that's gonna be spanning horizontally. When we come into the line chart, what we're gonna wanna do is first set up a couple of different things. So we want the lines for everything to be off. We don't want to see any lines, no lines anywhere, but we still have this axis and the data in the background is kind of pumping it up. We want to go to the markers and we want to turn this on. Actually we'll do this first. We want to actually, when we're setting up the colors, we're going to want to go to the series in the same process of setting the plug record to, we're not even going to show this line, but then Tesla, you'll want to set the color to Tesla red, Meta blue, Google green. And you can see these are changing now. And even though we don't have the line showing, you're gonna want to have the line color transcend to the error bars later on, which you'll see. So we'll go to Amazon, we'll set that up. We'll go to Microsoft, put that the same. This company right there. Finally, Apple with black. And so we have some formatting there. You can see the bars are gone. So now pretty simply, if I just take this same formatting from before and apply it, we've jumped ahead. There's just some marker adjustments and the items are labeled up and down like this, kind of going across the span. So let's take this chart, come back over to here so we can look at what's going on with this. All right. Because we're going to need to do some hidden stuff, turn some things off and on, see how to make this all work. So for the lines, again, we're going to come back to all. We're going to show for the series, turn these off. We don't want to see any lines. And that really changed that plug. And now specifically for the markers, we're going to show all the markers, but we're not going to show the marker that's the plug record. We're going to hide that, and that goes away. And now we have some values spread out. What we can do, again, to make sure things are lined up, it's always a good trick. You can go to the x-axis, turn on the values. You'll see the years here. I'm going to start by bringing this all the way down. 2000 lines up, kind of drag it around. 2024 now lines up, which is great. So let's take this to the top of the chart as well, which is right there. And then we can turn off the values on the x-axis, and we have these lines here. But again, they're not quite set up the same way. So this is where that switch statement was really important that we didn't apply. And this is the label order. Because what's happening is it's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So again, there's different ways to do this, but I wanted just to control how to stagger them. And so to do that in the label order, I basically said if it's 4, make it a 6. If it's 3, make it a 5. And that just moves these around different positions. If you play with this, you'll see. So if I come back down here and change this to switch and hit enter, now look at that beautifulness. We have the dots are all spread out, and we are moving forward with what we want to have happen here. So there's a couple of other key things we need to do. We want to establish the error bars. Now we're going to, well, I guess before the error bars, let's do this. Let's go back to the actual data labels. We're going to turn these on. And again, you see that right away. You say, what is that? Well, we don't want to see that. So we're going to turn them back off. We have to do this trick where you're going to go to the series and you have to go through each of the series and turn them off. Click through all these. Because what we're going to do is we are going to, actually, sorry, it can be much easier like this. We'll just go to all and turn on the detail, turn off the value like that. I was getting too into it. Yeah, so the series, pick everything, go to the value, turn off the value. Again, the value is that spread value we just calculated. We don't want to see that. Instead, we want to see a detailed value. And that detailed value is going to be that very cool field that we created on the stacked companies. That is the IPO label. Drag this on here. It's the first one. Cool. So it's starting to take shape, but let's move these things around a little bit. It's not fully working out. We can see that some of them are missing the values. So why is that? Well, that's because just a few minutes ago when I was clicking around, I accidentally turned the labels off. So let's go to them, go to the series. I will pick Tesla, and we're going to turn this show series on. We're going to go to Meta. And what I'm looking at is how there's nothing there, and now there is something there. And finally, for Google, let's turn that on. So we have our labels. Okay, cool. Let's get the background set up for these now. So we're going to go to the series all. In the background, again, we don't have the ability, we turn it on, but we don't have the ability to change it specifically. So we're going to set this transparency to 0. We want to have the detailed label. When we pick each of them, we'll change the color of it as well. So we can go to detail, let's change this color to see through, but we want to have that same coloring connection with it. So you can see because I picked Tesla earlier, it separated it off. So we'll have to come back to that one specifically and set it up. To do that, we're going to go to each of these. We'll pick Tesla first, go to the background, set the background of this to that red that we like for Tesla. My picture's in the way, so I can move it down a little further. Background, we'll pick that Tesla red, change the transparency to 0, like we like. We're going to keep going through these now, and we'll go back and forth. So we're going to then pick Meta and the background. Meta. Let's go to Google. Google background. Google. We can go to Amazon background. Amazon background. Microsoft background. Microsoft background. Apple's good. Finally, the super AI company. Green. Okay, so we have those set up. What we're going to be doing is moving them around as well after we create the error lines. What do I mean by that? So let's go create now the error bars. So what we're going to do is for that label series, we're going to have an upper bound. What that's going to mean is we can we can get that value that we did previously for our stacked calcs, the middle of max yearly, that x-axis. We come into here, drop it into upper, enable this, and now we have lines right there going to each one right in the middle. So let's update some stuff. The markers, we don't want these dots. The tooltip, we can turn those off. And let's just go through each of these by field. So the series, the error bar, we can adjust the color. Upper bound, lower bound, the bar, match series color, turn that on. Let's make the width a little bit bigger. So now we're having those bars. It's not lined up yet because I have to come back and kind of realign these things after moving it around. Let's make a few more adjustments to dial this thing in. So as we have the bars going, we notice that there's these dots here. Let's get rid of those. So if we come down to the error bars, what we can see is we have control. We've already matched the line series color that we set up. But for the border, this is showing the border. Let's take that to 0. We don't want to see that. That's gone. See you later. Okay, this is all the way at the bottom. This is at the top. Why is the spacing not perfect? Here's why. Because for the size and style of the y-axis, again, we have that range that's set, but it's automatically not going the full span. So what I mean by that is we want to set this to start at 0. We want the maximum to be that calculation, which is the stat calcs, the whole yearly cap, the max 1 to show the max width of whatever's selected. And now that is beautiful. There's just the right amount of spacing to move these values, to place them down and up and around. And we've created exactly what we want to have. We can move this to put it in the middle, however you like it. You know, move this a little bit this way, and you're kind of all set up then at this point. If we check the axis, again, the best way to do that, let's just double check it, turn the values on. We can see it's not perfectly lined up. So let's come here, drag it like so. And now everything is lined up just beautifully. Now let's do some final report cleanup and we are all set to go. So what we're going to do is we want to create the appearance that all 3 of these visuals we created are one, similarly to what these look like. So what we're going to do is come to the selection. I've identified this. You can hide a visual. Click this one, hide this as well. Click this, hide this as well. We're going to create a shape, apply some formatting, put those back on there, ensure the depth is set up, and we are set. Final tweaks, good to go. Shapes, rectangle. I'm going to insert a shape here. Again, our goal is to create kind of a floating card like we have for the other ones. So let's just do this. Let's copy this formatting. And what I'm going to do is go to Home, Format Painter, apply it. Easy like that. And for the shape style, we know that we want the fill to be like so. So it matches everything else. That title disappears, so we just have to simply type one in. This is going to be a stacked expansion market cap growth. Perfect. Oh, let's do all capitals too here. Stacked expansion market cap growth. Feel free to title it whatever you feel like best fits you. Make it your own as well. But now we have this rectangle. Here we can see it's called what it's called here. So let's bring back these things individually. First, we're going to bring back we'll send this to the back as well. So this is where you have some layering. So we're going to go selection, send to back. Cool. And this kind of shows where things sit in the ranking. We just sent that one all the way to the back. That's great. Let's start to bring these back in. And this guy. So we can see that some of the labels need to be updated. We'll bring one in per visual. All right, perfect. We brought that in. Now let's go ahead and do the label year. And we can see the x-axis is still there. So let's take that off. We already lined it up, but let's make sure it's off. There you go. So when we're looking at this, we want the shapes to be the same. I'm going to click this report in the background. We have this. We can drag it up, down to make sure it's aligned in that axis where you like it to be. But let's do a quick cleanup. Let's move some of these headers or some of these labels below it just to fill the space more. So what we can do for that is when we're back into here, we actually want to come back to this visual. We want this visual to have the x-axis on it. So x-axis on that core chart, yes. And now when we have these labels, these ones, we want this one. This is what we're going to look at now. We're going to turn the x-axis off for this one. But we want to adjust some of the labels. So what we can do is go to the data labels and let's pick a specific one. So say Tesla. We'll go to Tesla and we want this position to be under. Boom. Let's go to Apple under. Perfect. Same with Microsoft. Under. Okay, great. Now that's looking awesome. Let's ensure that this is where we want it to be in that middle of the axis there. You can dial it in as you want to too. Finally, let's come back to our selection criteria. And we are going to turn back on our ranking right here. And we're going to fit this into the visual too. Slightly down, slightly down. And look at that. Beautiful. You have done it. You have created it. Hopefully you've made it your own along the way as well. A fully interactive dashboard, filtering as you desire. Everything is interacting. And it just looks beautiful. So you've learned tons of skills. The stacked expansion market cap growth chart is highly unique. And I hope you've enjoyed this. Subscribe, like, leave any comment, any question. I will respond and answer and help. Enjoy this. Enjoy Power BI. And y'all take care. Have a good one. Bye.